Welcome to the wind down.
So happy to be here.
We've had a whole journey.
We sure have.
We've had a whole journey, but we're here. We're in the wind down. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I know this was like a huge process that you went through, was how long have you been married now?
It'll be 9 years in September.
Gosh, 9 years.
Yeah.
Next year's a big 10 as well. Okay, so 9 years in September. But
we've been together for 12 years. So we've been together for a long time. And okay. I'm not going to spoil the question, but I'm going to ask the question and I'll share a thing.
Don't spoil the question.
I won't.
We're building up the tension here. Okay, so you've been married 9 years.
Yes.
But you only just took his surname. Mm-hmm. Talk to me. What was going on there?
So I only recently legally changed it. So I was going by Jenna Phillips Ballard.
Yeah.
Obviously since we were married, but there was a whole thing when I met Brad. I mean, when I was even further back, when I was 16, I decided I'm never changing my last name because I loved my name, Jenna Michelle Phillips. That's my name. I love my name. I don't ever want to change it. And I also had this belief, this underlying belief that my dad had wished that he'd had a son so he could continue the Phillips legacy. And he had 2 daughters. And so I felt this responsibility, of course, being my masculine, like I need to continue
keep that surname.
I got to continue my last name. And so, how perfect. So it was a really clear thing. And I made very, very well known to Brad that I'm never changing my last name. So then he's proposing to me. And I always had envisioned my proposal be, us over there, a photographer over there, and friends and family recording, from behind the bushes, and this big, huge, extravagant thing. But it was perfect because it was just the 2 of us in our house when we were living in Pacific Palisades. And I was sweaty. I'd been training people all day, and I come in the door. And he's acting kind of nervous, and I'm like, "What are you acting so weird? What's going on?" And then he comes up to me and he says, "I have a present for you." I said, "You have a present for me?" And he says, "Yeah." And he hands me this envelope and it has my name on it. And I open the envelope and I pull it out and it's a note card with his last name on it. And I look at him and I look at the thing and I look at him and I start to hear his heart beating in his chest. I could literally hear his tender little bird heart. I know. And he says the most amazing thing that I could ever give to you is my last name. And then internally I'm like, except I'm not changing my last name ever. You're proposing to me right now, but I'm not going to change my last name. And he's like, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you and blah, blah, blah. And then he gets down on one knee and he pulls out the ring and I look at it. I look at the box. And I was like, yes, of course. I didn't even look at the ring. Yeah. And so it was just, I was so adamant about never changing it. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just change it, legally, but not publicly because I was Jenna Michelle Phillips, this personal trainer, and I worked with all these celebrities and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose. And I really understood that it was important to him to continue his legacy and for us to be unified in that way. And so the kind of like the meeting in the middle was, all right, well, I will add your name, but I'm keeping Jenna Phillips, like Jenna Phillips Ballard. I'll go by that. Which has been great because I'm literally the only one in the entire universe. There are a lot of Jenna Phillipses, a ton of Jenna Ballards, but there is no other Jenna Phillips Ballard. But it was also, I also kind of underneath it, my parents are divorced. And so my subconscious belief was like, we'll probably wind up getting divorced at some point, even though I intrinsically know that Brad is my life partner and my person, and I don't want to raise my kids with anybody else. But I had this kind of really cynical thought of, well, I don't want to have to go change my name public. I don't have to change it legally, officially, and then have to change it back and go through that whole hassle. And so I'm just going to keep it as it is. And so, and I really want to have the same last name as my kids. And that's like a whole other thing too. So when we're booking our travel and all of that, I mean, it's important. So
you're not child stealing.
Right. I am not trafficking my own children. Yeah. So
if you see her kids, there's no question
there's no way.
She is, but like
there's no way that they are not my kids. They are definitely my children. But yeah, so I went through that process and I realized I was like, oh, this is actually a subconscious wedge that I have in between me and my husband. And what would it look like for me to just, and Brad doesn't, we get excited about different things. And so, of course, I wanted him to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I am so glad you did that. And he's like, okay, cool. Like when I told him I did that, I'm like, this is a big deal. Like, can you please just acknowledge that this
I'm not subconsciously divorcing you anymore.
Right.
This is huge.
And he just very, very
classic.
I
man.
know, so anticlimactic. I'm like, cool, great. So I'm just gonna, I'm share with my friends. They'll be excited for me. Oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah. So it was a really big deal for me, and I've also been considering dropping Phillips altogether publicly. Like I'll still keep my full name, but just going by Jenna Ballard. And I'll try it on every once in a while. And sometimes people will introduce me as that. But I'm really just trying that on because it's like the question I'm asking myself is, what else is really available in the full surrender of that? And because I'm not my name is not me. It's a way that I describe myself. And I'm really working on being not attached to anything and just being open and being curious and available for whatever's meant for me. And so I think there was just energetically, it was a big thing for me to create that.
I love that. And thank you for sharing that because I think that's going to help so many women. I actually want to read some of the responses that we got to this because I feel like it's a big debate. Can I just say, like,
yeah.
I knew it was a big debate, but the responses I was getting. So one of the responses was, here in Iceland, you take your parents, usually your father's name, and add son or daughter. So no family names when we were married. My Icelandic hubby took, I'm not going to read this one, actually, Control-Alt-Delete. This is way too confusing. Okay, we'll remove that one. So one of the responses was, oh my God, this is a huge dilemma and discussion in our house. I want to hyphenate so we are both represented, but he says no for tradition. Can't wait to hear your thoughts.
Okay.
I personally don't feel like one of you can be like, you have to take mine. I feel like hyphenating is like a good middle ground, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can see that. I know that obviously it's a very traditional thing is to take your husband's last name. I think that hyphenating your names, I mean, I think that's definitely a way to do it. But you know, I also have known men to take their wives' last name because their dad is like a horrible human being and they don't want to continue that legacy. So I can understand that. But I think that it's just whatever feels right to you is the thing to do, you know. And
Jenna's way too good at seeing all sides of things. We're gonna have to force her to get opinionated here. Like, she's like,
can you please be polarizing, please? God,
she's gonna make shit clips.
Stop being in the middle.
Shit clips. You can't just understand everyone's perspective for God's sake. Tell her how terrible her husband is. No, I'm joking. I'm clearly joking. I'm joking. No, so true. Like, there's so I think that's what's beautiful though at this point of where we are, like in society, like. Anything is acceptable.
Haven't you and Jake hyphenated both of your names?
No, so I'm so glad you asked me this because everyone thinks that's what we've done.
Okay.
I took Jake's surname.
Okay.
So Jake's mum and dad hyphenated.
Okay, got it.
They got married. So that's the Wombwell Povey.
How do you feel about that super long name?
Well, I fucking loved it.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm from up north. Like my parents would cringe if they heard me saying this because it's not like we're this like, I don't know, like I'm just like making out I'm like very northern and like not posh, but like basically when I first heard Jake's name, Jake Oliver Wombwell Povey, I was like, oh my God, it sounds so posh.
Yeah.
I was like, double barrel. Like I had this thing, like guys with a double barrel name were posh. And also he wears a ring on his little finger, like a pinky ring. Again, like only the posh boys do that. I did not grow up with any posh boys wearing pinky rings.
Okay.
Turns out it's like this super sentimental thing from his granddad, which is his story to share. But anyway, it's like, I didn't have the interpretation that actually his mum was like, has in a really great way is feminist and like wanted her name represented and that he had this like sentimental family story. So I was a bit like, because background to me, like I've only dated guys well, not all, but like a lot of them, the one before this, put it this way, was not a match, shall we just say. Like I like to
not
save.
the one.
He was not the one and I like to save. And it would just be in like a bad situ. So this guy comes along, he's got his shit together, he's got a job, he's got a flat. And I just want to say it wasn't all the external things. It was more the energy of like, I felt safe with him. And I felt like he knows who he is and he knows what he's doing. And at that point in my life, that felt very alien to me.
Sure.
And it felt very like, my nervous system was just like, oh.
Yeah.
Like instantly, and also I fancied the shit out of him, which really helped. So my surname was Davies and I fucking hated it. So I didn't love my name. So
You're like, I'm ditching the name.
Hang on, hated is strong. God, I hope my parents never listen to this episode. Hated
Love you,
is
Mom and
strong.
Dad.
Yeah, love you, Grandma, Granddad. No, I didn't hate it, but I wasn't like lit up. You know how your name had this beautiful ring to it?
Sure.
I love the Alexandria Maria, but the Davis never really did anything for me.
Okay.
So I was so happy to take this second name.
I think your current name fits you so well.
Thank you.
The full entirety of it. The whole, the first, the middle, and you've got like 9,000 names like me. So it's like, the whole long thing, it fits you.
I feel like it fits you as well, though, with the Phillips Yard. Like,
sure.
I love it. I absolutely love it. But anyway, that was my whole thing. But I want to speak about the energy bit here.
Okay.
I liked the energy of surrender to my husband.
Sure,
Which I
of
feel like
course.
is controversial. But like, I liked that. I liked that there was a part of me that I was willing to give to him and be like, I will take your name. There was almost like a kind of a little bit of domineering energy there.
I'm into it though, but
Yeah.
but that's how we are genetically designed. We as women, we want our partner, our masculine counterpart, to lead us and to make decisions and tell us where we're going on dates and actually manage and book and schedule our entire vacation and handle those things. And we just want to be all along for the ride. And of course, if we've got these parts about ourselves that are at times more masculine, I mean, it's like, if you are a woman who has a career, you definitely have masculine aspects of who you are. It's not wrong. I love my masculine. And so to be able to balance those and know when to set down the armor, to set down the sword, and give yourself permission to be guided and to be led is such a huge thing for a powerful woman. And so, I saw a lot of that too. For me, it was because I was making it less about, I need to claim this legacy, this Phillips legacy, and continue this legacy. And it really was a subtle way for me just to acknowledge my husband. And, and now I'm in this, Brad and I are in a group texting thread with Brad's parents, and we've named it The Ballards. And so, so it's just like little things like that I think really just honor and respect that. And I think a family name is again, it's a very powerful thing, a part of our DNA and how we are wired and set up. And so I think that it's beautiful that you wanted your husband to lead. And that's not to say that you're not capable. That's not to say that you're not powerful. It's not to say that you can't be independent. You can't have your own stuff. It's like, I just want to honor my husband as the leader of this family. And I think that we've just gotten so far removed from typical kind of like old ways of showing up in relationship and in the family. And it's like and just look at what's happening to our society right now. I mean, masculinity is made to be so wrong, and it's like all masculinity is toxic somehow. Not true. And we're just trying to be so PC and be inclusive of everybody and all the things and all beliefs, and it's just so wacky. Our society is so wacky and backwards right now, and we don't have protectors. We don't have people who are holding down the sanctity and the safety of our nation. And it's like,
I was going to say, I won't go into it too much, but look at politics.
It is insane. It is absolutely insane. And I just believe that we're so far removed from family values because just think about like any TV show. Can you think of a TV show in the last 20 to 30 years where there has been a kind of nuclear family, husband, wife, married, happy, relationship, good relationship. They've got kids, and the father is the leader of the family, the breadwinner, the person who's holding it down for the family. And it's like you see, I mean, look at like Married with Children. I don't know if you ever saw that show, but it's like, Married with Children. I want you to now Google it and look at some old episodes. But it's the dad is just this deadbeat dad who sits on the couch, and the wife eats bonbons, and it's just like this breakdown family. And it's just it's like this deprecating, the self-deprecating kind of humor that really just breaks down the strength of a solid family. And I think that we're just, it's almost like, and I want to really just mad respect to all single parents. I don't know how you all do it. Holy wow, holy crap, holy shit. Insane. You are absolute superheroes. And it's almost like the single parenthood life has been glorified. And it's like, it's in a way where we're kind of putting out this, it's almost like inviting people to choose that. It's like, it's better off to be a single parent than to, it's just really interesting to see the way that culture is glorifying certain things and making certain family values wrong. And I think that that's really just breaking down the infrastructure of society. And it's like, you don't see families sitting around and having dinner together at the dinner table anymore. It's just not happening. And so, I mean, look at the mental health crisis that is happening in our country right now.
Yeah.
And I think there's just a lot of things that are just not working in the home and in families. And so that's something that I'm deeply passionate about.
I love this. And I think there's almost like I think sometimes the way that we find equilibrium is through going to an extreme. And I'm just listening to a book. I really recommend it so far, called MILF by Paloma Faith.
Okay.
Actually, a friend Natalie suggested it.
Okay.
And early on, she talks about how feminism's kind of fucked us.
Yeah.
Like it didn't, like, to give context, of course, we wanted to fight for our rights and do all the rest of it. But then I think we're entering this period now where we want more balance with it, where it's like, yeah, we want our rights, but like, actually as a mum, we don't want to have to do it all. Like, if we choose to want to do it all, cool. But like, it's a lot to balance being a mum and being a career woman and and all these things.
Right.
I know that you had a very intense postpartum experience. Do you feel like, what do you think led to that? Do you think it was environmental factors, societal factors, biological factors? Like, what was coming up for you during that period?
I think it was biological. I think it was societal. It was the societal pressures that, like the pressures that I've put on myself based on comparison, based on like, I feel like I should be further along. I feel like I should be feeling differently. I feel like I should. And so it was like this deep internal struggle that was, it was compounded over time. I mean, I didn't get to really deal with my postpartum with Jax, my firstborn, because Brad was so sick because of the mold poisoning. And I also got sick, but not as sick as he did.
Yeah.
And so I was not in that fourth trimester experience. Like, I had to pony up and lead our family. And it was really intense. And this was all during COVID. And then we were uprooting our lives and moving to Austin and replanting our roots. And then when we landed at the end of 2020 here in Austin, I finally came to Brad and I said, because it had been probably like 8 or 9 months that he was navigating his mental health stuff because of just his central nervous system was so impacted by the mold. I finally said to him, I remember coming to him in our bedroom and I said, I need to go on a sabbatical and just microdose and go hike in the forest for many hours every single day. And I don't know how long that's going to be, but I need to not lead our family anymore. And I said, are you able and ready to lead our family again? And he said, yeah. And so I created space for him to step up and lead. And so it really gave him purpose. It gave him the opportunity to really be in his leadership all over again. And so it was really healing for him and for us and for me. And, but that was it. I was just in my full-fledged feminine. I was in my no deadlines, no needing to be on time anywhere, no needing to be rushing anything, just exploring and floating with the wind and listening to music and microdosing and letting nature be my biggest teacher. And it was really powerful. And so that was a lot of healing I did then, but I was still navigating this black mold toxicity and my chronic brain fog and just energetic. I just didn't have energy to go exercise. And then I broke my ankle, and that was in 2021. And then, it was just so intense. Like, I broke my ankle. I was out for 3 months. And, but then of course I manifested that because my energy was thinking so far ahead. I was starting to feel better. I was starting to get energy. I was like, okay, I'm working out now. I'm going on hikes with my friends. But I wasn't embodying presence. I wasn't embodying gratitude. I wasn't embodying just being alive and in the present moment. I was thinking so far ahead down the line and wanting to be in the future. And so right when I broke my ankle, I was like, yep. In that moment, I totally knew that the universe absolutely orchestrated that whole thing, because the universe was like, no, we are not doing more of this. So I really got to pause, and that was really powerful. My mom happened to be in town, and so she got to mom me for the entire week, and that was big for her. And she was with me when I broke my ankle. I was hiking with like 10 of my friends and my mom. And so it was just a really interesting thing. But then I got pregnant and got COVID. I tested positive for both on the same day. So that was super fun.
2 double lines on both tests.
Way to go. So then I was experiencing that, and then I got re-exposed to black mold. We went out to San Diego to facilitate training. We stayed in a hotel. They had black mold in the room, and and then we're basically back at square one. And so So it's just a lot. Like my nervous system went through a lot, and it was really up to me. And then of course I give birth. I had this miraculous birth. It was exactly as I envisioned it, manifested, declared it, all of it. And I was good for like 8 months. I had so much energy. I was like, I feel so amazing. I can do anything. I mean, the whole birthing experience in and of itself was revitalizing for me.
Yeah.
And then I wound up, when I got my period again, my hormones were so out of whack.
Yeah.
And I had the deepest, darkest depression.
Yeah.
Just crazy thoughts of paranoia. Everyone's against me. Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. I'm totally unworthy. I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter. Yeah. I don't embody what I say, you know, and I just was experiencing so much stuff. And we also accumulated a lot of debt when we were going through, like, trying to keep our company alive when we were going through the black mold. And just, man, I don't know how we kept things together.
Yeah.
I'm in absolute shock that we did not have to close the doors of our company, but we just had a lot of support. And that's the other thing too, is like, we get to know that asking for support is not an indication of weakness. It's really an indication of strength and trust. And so I was just in this whole thing of just trying to manage the debt and manage this and all that. And then just like feeling so stuck and trying to create from that place of not enoughness, trying to create from that place of feeling like I was in scarcity, even though I'm not. I have a roof over my head. We have a super successful business. Like, everything's fine. Everything's handled, taken care of. But I really was stuck in this thing that had me not feel good about putting my music out, not feel good about putting out my courses. And I was in this spiral that I felt like I literally could not come out of. And it was one of the hardest times of my life. And a lot of people didn't know that. I didn't share it with a lot of people. I wasn't that outspoken about it in the moment because I felt so consumed by it. Yeah. But then as I started to work out again, I was moving my body and doing different kinds of fitness, and that started to feel really good. And I was literally working out once a week, and I was being gentle with myself and being patient and not trying to force it and not trying to make myself wrong for feeling the way that I was feeling, but just identifying that I am in a season right now because I'm meant to, it's like dark night of the soul. I'm clearly meant to learn something about this and something through this on the other side of it. Yeah. And I just totally embraced it and took it on. And now on the other side of it, I haven't felt this good in probably years. And so I'm feeling aligned. I'm feeling on purpose. I'm feeling free. And of course I have moments where I do doubt myself. I have moments where I have a really big, huge vision. Like my vision, when I really give myself full permission to imagine all the things that I want to create, there are literally no limits. I mean, zero, none. Like, it's so big, multi-billion-dollar company making a huge impact on the lives of millions, billions of people. So like, that's how big I think. But then of course in creeps my, well, that's not logical and that's not reasonable. And maybe it's going to take, and so I totally have those thoughts and those feelings every once in a while. But it's, again, up to me to interrupt those thoughts, because the default as a human is we're going to go to logical and reasonable and what we can trust and what we know. We don't want to take a risk. We don't want to fuck it up. Yeah. But it really is up to us to remember that the only limitations that exist are the ones that we create in our minds. And if we're finite about anything, then we're not open to all the ways that it can truthfully come together.
Oh my gosh, so powerful. And I think what I'm so grateful for you sharing this story as well is that I think I definitely had this impression that postpartum depression or, just struggle is going to come early.
Sure.
And I know I definitely had that experience. I got through the first couple of months and I was like, because I'd had a history of depression, I had a fear that I would have postpartum. I got past the first 3 months. We're all good. We're through it. Yep. And I think it's really powerful women share these stories around, no, actually it was 8-9 months in. It was when my period started. It was when all these things happened.
Right.
That actually that started to happen. But I also just find you deeply inspiring for the way that you surrendered into it. It sounds so easy, I think, when you listen to this, if you haven't been through it, as in, like you had a conversation with your husband, you microdosed, you hiked, you did one workout a week. How wonderful. Yeah. Like, I know in my head, like previously, if I'd heard stories of that, I'd be like, oh, what a life. Mm-hmm. When you're in it.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah.
It was gut wrenching. I felt like I had an alien in my brain. Like I had like this demon in my head telling me these thoughts about who I am as a person, who I am as a leader, who I am as a mother, who I am as a friend. Like it was like I was living in hell. I felt like I had hell in my brain.
Yeah.
And I could not distinguish between what was what and what was being generated from this darkness, this shadow that, you know, it's a part, like, we all have a shadow within us. We all have this aspect of ourselves that is a part of us. It's not who we are. It's not what we are, but it is in fact a part of us. And so is our awareness. So is our ability to be able to pull back and look at what we're experiencing. And it's just our awareness. It's not who we are. It's not what we are, but it's a part of who we are. And that awareness, there's no beginning, there's no end. It can't be harmed. It can't be bruised. It can't be broken. It can't be damaged. It's just this part of us that has always been with us. And it's our spirit. And it never dies. There's no beginning. There's no end. It's not small. It's not big. It just is. And that's just such a big, powerful way for us to remember who we actually are. And sometimes it takes us being vulnerable enough to have powerful conversations with people so we can have them reflect back our greatness to us. And it's okay to have these thoughts, because every human at one point or another does have them. And I think that people feel oftentimes very alone in these thoughts, because they can be so dark and they can be so mean and they can be so bad. And we would never talk that way to any of our friends. We would never talk that way to a little 4-year-old, but we talk to our inner child that way every single day. When we have these conversations with ourselves, with our ego, and we listen to it and we just decide that, well, I'm just being honest with myself. It's like, no, if it feels shitty, it's because it's in contrast to who you actually are. Who you actually are is an exquisite, powerful, beautiful, unstoppable, capable, magnetic being who is here to cause and create literally anything and everything. And so any other thought that isn't in alignment with that, it's going to feel shitty.
Yeah.
And that's the power of contrast. Contrast is our most powerful compass. And that's our ego. Our ego is contrasting to who we authentically are.
Oh, you are such medicine. I feel like these 2 episodes have been so much medicine and just a reflection of who you are as an incredible leader, speaker, artist, pop star to me. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy. Thank you for everything that you put out into the world. You truly are just so much magic and so much medicine for so many. And thank you for the beautiful music that you've created, because holy hell, it's incredible. I know we said it on the main episode, but if you haven't already, I'm going to link it in the show notes. Like, you need to listen to that. Again, my pro tip is first thing in the morning, reset your day. I mean, if you need to reset your day at any point, you can listen, but I just feel like first thing in the morning, it just like really sets the day off on a whole new trajectory.
Oh, thank you so much, babe. I'm so grateful that we finally did this. I'm so happy to be here, and I love you.
Yay! Yay!
We did it.
Perfect timing as well.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I think you have been in here.
I have, for Natalie's podcast.